Anyway, sex trafficking is a commercial sex act which is induced by force, fraud, and coercion, and this or is very important. The person induced to perform such act has not attained 18 years of age. So accordingly, as Sarah mentioned, there is no child prostitution because they cannot consent to have a sex while they are minor. So how could they consent to have commercial sex? That's the underlying logic for them. Another component is labor trafficking, and this is defined as the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, and coercion for the purpose of subjection to involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, and slavery. It's more reasonable to think of human trafficking in terms of more like what we call the dimensional approach. So there are more people. There are people who are more severely impacted, victimized. And there are people at the other end. They don't even know they have done something like that. If you think of high school students who exchange marijuana for sex, and there is about 1.7% in Minnesota study who do that during the high school. Now, they don't have the concept that they've been victimized. And so that's kind of lowering the dimension. But if they are minor, they've been trafficked.
We have had kiddos come to us with all kinds of ways that they got involved in trafficking, whether that be a family member, a neighbor, a romantic partner. We've had some of them exploit themselves. They are looking to have a specific thing, and someone or themselves does whatever they can to make sure that they get it. Women and girls have been referred to a lot. I just want to dispel that this does not happen to men and boys. I tend to try to make sure that that is known. I may say girls because we work with more females. However, we have been in contact with boy and men victims of trafficking as well.
We do a lot within the rural communities. All of our areas are smaller communities. We don't have the typical gangs, pimps type of activity. So it is more hidden. And even with labor trafficking, we get a lot of migrant workers this way, but they very much keep them themselves or on the farm property. So I think within our area, I believe that we have come a large way, a huge way in being able to change how we respond and engage law enforcement as well as healthcare to act on that. The barriers, again, for rural communities is that they don't have that same access and quick response to the same number of types of resources available.
Yes, absolutely. So because the organizations I work for, we focus mostly in the Southeast and the Midwest, again, greater Chicago area. And those two regions are pretty vastly different from one another. So what we see, speaking from the Southeast and more specifically Florida and Florida's Gulf Coast, even the Super Bowl that just happened in Tampa. I'm based in Kansas City, so everyone was dead silent on my side, but all my friends down in Florida were excited. But what we saw from the Super Bowl over the weekend is highly telling of what we see normally. Our outreach team, who was on the streets and working with law enforcement and helping them extrapolate survivors from their situations, they said that like 95% of the victims that they rescued over the course of the past week were brought in from out of state. So in Florida and places like, the West Coast and big cities that are hubs in and of themselves, people want to go there, not just because there are, there's more to do, there's other attractive features, but because there is money there, because people go there on holiday. And so what we see, especially on the Gulf Coast of Florida, A lot of traffickers take advantage of the beautiful beaches. It's a holiday destination. There's tons of conferences and resorts. And so it's a great, unfortunately, place to lure young men and women to.